Okay, we're gonna learn to make cookies today. The first thing I want you to do when you get into lab is start your sink. You're gonna have a plug similar to mine, but yours will be black. I want you to push it in all the way and then start running warm water into your sink. Add a little bit of soap and let that fill up. You want it about half full, maybe 3/4 full. Now you're gonna have two sinks. One for your dishes, one to rinse. My sink is one. The other thing you need to get out is 2 washcloths. One's for doing dishes, one's going to be for wiping counters. And then 2 dry towels. One is going to be to hold your dishes as they air dry, and the other is going to be to dry the dishes. So get your kitchen set up first, and then we are going to wash our hands. The next thing I want you to do is preheat your oven. All you have to do is hit bake and start. It should say 350, and your oven is preheating. Okay, the next thing you need to do is wash your hands. Get some warm water running in your sink. Now remember, you're gonna have 2 sinks, so don't do it on top of the dishes. I'm just doing this for demonstration purposes. Get your hands wet. Give yourself 2 pumps of soap, and then you need to wash for 20 seconds out of the water. So you can count to 20, you can sing your ABCs, you can sing Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, but make sure that you're going up on your wrists, on both sides, between your fingers, the back of your hands, the fronts of your hands, and then to get your nails, you can do this at the palms of your hands. And then after about 20 seconds, you can rinse them off with your warm water. Now, once you've got your hands rinsed, turn the water off with your arm, and then make sure you use a clean paper towel to dry your hands. The next thing I want you to do is get your mise en place together. To make chocolate chip cookies, we need to get our ingredients out and our equipment out. Mise en place is a French term that means everything in its place. So let's go over ingredients first. You are going to need flour and sugar. You'll need chocolate chips. You'll need an egg. You will need a stick of butter that is softened. You'll need some vanilla. We'll need some salt, and then you will need baking soda. Now I want to stop here and talk about the difference between baking soda and baking powder. Make sure you are using baking soda. These are not the same thing, even though they have baking in the front of the word. If you use powder, you will have a cakey cookie instead of a regular cookie. So make sure you're using the right thing. We want soda for this. Now let's go on to the mise en place for our equipment. First thing you're going to need is a stand mixer, which is located on your counter. And then you are going to need 2 cookie sheets. You are going to need a spoon, a knife for leveling, some measuring cups, measuring spoons. You need a little custard cup for your egg. You will need a rubber scraper, and you will need 1 or 2 cookie scoops. So that's your mise en place, everything out and ready to go to begin cooking. Okay, we're ready to cook. So the first thing I need you to do here is make sure that you put your paddle attachment, that's this flat one, onto your mixer. You just push up and twist and it should be locked into place. Now we're ready to add our ingredients. The first thing we need to do is cream our butter and sugar together. So your butter should be softened, and you just place it in the mixing bowl. The next thing we're going to do is add our sugars, and you're going to need 2 types of sugar here. You're going to need your granulated sugar and your brown sugar, and they are measured in 2 different ways. Let's start with our granulated sugar. To measure your white sugar, really it's okay. I know some people say to spoon a level, but with sugar you can dunk it, shouldn't pack in. We'll talk about spooning and leveling specifically with flour. But we need a 1/4 cup plus 2 tablespoons. So we're gonna put that in, and always with tablespoons, you can scoop and level. Make sure you're leveling off though, that is important. The next thing we need is our brown sugar. Brown sugar is granulated sugar with molasses added in. And for that, you do wanna pack it in. So you wanna really get as much in there as you can and pack it in. You can even push down and then level off with a knife if you need to, or a handle or a spoon. So when you dump it out, it should maintain its shape. Same thing with our tablespoons. We're gonna pack that in. If your hands are clean, and only if your hands are clean, you could scoop it off like that as well. We need 2 tablespoons, so we'll do that twice, packing it in, leveling it off, putting it in. Then the last thing we need is some vanilla extract, and we need a 1/2 teaspoon of that. I just have to grab my 1/2 teaspoon real quick. For that, it is best if you do not measure it right over in case you get too much. So I would just use the equipment you had previously in case you need to catch some, and that goes in. Now our directions say that we need to cream that together. So we're gonna put the head of our mixer down. We're gonna lock it into place, and we are going to let that run until it combines into one nice combined mixture. Okay, the next step, if you can see it's combined, we are going to put our egg in. Now, sometimes people just put the egg straight in. We don't want shells in our cookies. So make a good practice of always cracking your eggs separately into a different bowl. That way, if it's a bad egg or it has a shell in there, you can get it out. This egg has a little blood spot on it, and that is just fine to use. Nothing wrong with that. Sometimes there's twins though, which would give you too much fat in a recipe if there's 2 yolks. But this is good. We'll dump it in. We didn't get anything in there. And then we mix that in. And the next step will be our dry ingredients. Okay, to mix your dry ingredients in a separate bowl, I want you to learn how to measure flour properly. And we don't dunk flour or we'll get too much. So we are going to spoon and level. We spoon it into our measuring cup, and then we level it off with the side of a knife, and then it goes into the bowl. We need 1 1/3 cups of this. So we will do the 1, then we will do the 1/3. Our dry ingredients also include our salt, which we need a 1/2 teaspoon of, so we can dunk that and add it. And we need our baking soda, making sure we're not using baking powder. This has a little edge on it that you can level it. So if you scoop and you just level right there, it works perfectly, then that can go in as well. You do want to give this a stir. So you mix those in, and then we're going to turn this back on, and we are going to slowly incorporate our dry ingredients in. And I say slowly because if you dump it all in at one time, it will go everywhere and you'll have a really big mess to clean up. That's not the goal of your day. So we add a little at a time, let it incorporate, add a little more. It's also important to note that we need to clean as we go. So when dishes are dirty, we put them in the sink, we get them cleaned up. That way we get out of lab on time. You only have 45 minutes to make these, bake these, and clean up. So it is important that you are constantly putting your dishes in the sink and getting those washed up. Okay, last step is to add our chocolate chips in. It does say to do this by hand. That does not mean you stick your hand in the cookie dough. It means that we're gonna stir it using a utensil with our hand. You could use your mixer, but it does tend to crush our chocolate chips from time to time. We're gonna put in a cup. I'm doing a 1/2 cup at a time. It's important that you don't add more than a cup, or you will have more chocolate than dough, and that's not really the goal. They won't bake up nicely. In addition, if you look at my counter, you'll notice that most ingredients are gone and equipment is gone because I've been cleaning as I go, putting things away as I use them. It helps you get out on time. That's part of time management. In addition, you want to take this off at this point and scrape all your cookie dough off, get it into your dough. At this time, I will also mention, please don't eat cookie dough. These eggs that we have at school are not treated, which means they could contain salmonella. Salmonella can give you some bloody diarrhea. I don't think you want that. Not a fun gig. So then we are going to stir this in by hand until it's well distributed. You want to make sure you're scraping the sides and the bottom of the bowl until you've got it all mixed up, and then we're ready to scoop. Okay, last step is we're going to scoop them onto our cookie sheets. My cookie sheets are a little bit bigger than yours at school, but we are still gonna do 12. We go 3 across, 4 down. We use a cookie scoop. I want you to go in and level and scoop. It's important that your cookies are consistent. When you get them in the oven, if they're consistent, they'll bake consistently, and then you will have not only the same size, but you won't have some that are overcooked and some that are undercooked. So using that cookie scoop, scooping, leveling 3 across, 4 down, and then we're gonna put them in the oven. Okay, last step is to put them in the oven. You can see we have 3 across, 4 down. We're gonna put this one in the oven and set our timer. You can put both in at the same time. You just have to switch racks halfway through. But I wanna show you a cool trick on this next one. So I'm gonna put this one in and then show you a neat trick on the other one. So make sure when you're putting it in that you are putting it in the center of the oven for even baking, and don't burn yourself. Then you need to make sure you set your timer. You just need to hit the oven timer and then however many minutes you want and hit start or enter and it will count down. Okay, quick side note. I meant to set my timer for 10 minutes. Somehow I hit 18, so I had to fix that. So don't set your timer for 18 minutes on Friday. Okay, if you wanna keep some chocolate chips out, I'll show you a really fun trick. And it's putting a few on the top, and then as they bake, those chocolate chips stay on top, and it looks really nice. It's like a really nice way to make your cookies look kind of gourmet. So I will show you the end result of this once they're done baking. While your cookies are baking, it's a good time to clean up. Washing, rinsing, and then air drying here, then somebody else can come along and dry with that dry towel, then putting everything away where it belongs. This is your time to get that all done so you get out on time. Okay, my cookies are done. First thing I'd like you to do is make sure you turn your oven off so that it is off for when you leave. We are ready to take our cookies out. Make sure you are using something on your hands for protection from the heat. All right, my first pan and my second pan. You can kind of see with these how I put the chocolate chips on the top and the aesthetic that it gave. These look just as good. Some of them have a little more chocolate chips inside of them because this was the end of my bowl. But just to give you a heads up on how that works, and now you can move them to a cooling rack. Also, when you put these down, make sure you put it on a heat-proof surface. My oven has a heat-proof surface on it. Don't put it on your counters at school. So divide your cookies up evenly and enjoy.